All right, we are going to go ahead and get started here. And for all of you that are here this morning, glad that you're here. For those of you that are tuning in online, equally glad that you are here. I have a special guest with us this morning. I have been super excited to have this guy here. We talked about it, finally made it happen. Brett Seybold runs KAPOL Apologetics, International Apologetics Ministry. It is a ministry that is very much needed in our day and age. New skepticism is taking over in a lot of areas. And they work not only in America, but they work all over the world. I'm sure he'll tell you about the website, so I won't go into that. But they do apologetics videos in multiple languages. I've watched all of them. Don't say I understand all of them. I've listened through, I think, all of them. And they work a lot in Eastern Europe. There's a lot of stuff going on there. He spent 10 years in Germany. And for those of you that know Nick and Jess, and I think everybody in this room knows Nick and Jess, they work through the same organization. So last year at the missionary convention, their booths were butted up right next to each other. In fact, Nick is the one that introduced me to this guy. And so excited to hear what he has to share. So I'm going to stop talking here. And Brett, come up and share with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. I'll start with, as to not rob you of a Bible study, I'll give at least one verse in there that I'm sure you all, when we talk about apologetics, it's usually 1 Peter 3:15 that we all gravitate towards. And the thing is, there are lots of verses that talk about apologetics in the New Testament and even the Old Testament. But 1 Peter 3:15 says, "But sanctify Christ as Lord in your hearts. Always be ready to make a defense to everyone who asks you to give an account for the hope that is in you, yet with gentleness and reverence." So we want to defend the truth, but with gentleness and reverence. Before I kind of tell my story a little bit, we've got some goodies out there. As Jim was saying, I'm with Contact Mission, and that's why the name KAPOL, Contact Apologetics, spelled with a K, because our headquarters, we have a headquarters in Humboldt, Tennessee, but our main headquarters is in Wüstenwald, Germany, and that's why it's spelled in German. Grab, if you will, one of my business cards, ministry cards out there. It's got a QR code on that. You can go to our YouTube channel and check out our videos. I'm going to tell you right up front, they are academic, but we designed them to stand up to academic skeptics. We're not trying to entertain anyone, or we want good, solid content that stands up to academic skeptics, because as Jim was saying, skepticism is a big issue, and we would refer to Germany as the ground zero of the attack on the scriptures. Also, something else I do with Contact Mission, I help organize short-term trips and internships to visit missionaries in Europe. For example, maybe we'd have to check with the Tuttles, but I'm guessing they would be open to a small group from this church, or if you know somebody who'd be interested in spending like the summer over there. I'm organizing a couple of those. Check out one of our Go Connect brochures. Everything back there can be taken. Plenty of stickers. Make sure your kids and grandkids get stickers. We've got plenty of those, so don't worry about it. We talk about international apologetics with an individual touch. We do personal evangelism. I dialogue with a lot of skeptics and Muslims and Christians struggling with their faith. We're trying to share their faith, try to brainstorm ways to share the faith, defend the faith with gentleness and respect, as we just read. So it's personal evangelism, equipping, and cultural engagement. That's what our videos are there for. We want to engage the culture. We want to help people believe, and I'm going to circle back to that here in a bit. Quick statistics. Right now we have 121 videos, and we've been making them for about 5 years now. And we're in, I believe, 19 languages. We've at least got one video in 19 languages, and we're constantly making more. It's not just myself, I create some of them. but it's a lot of other Christian scholars. I'm already eyeing this guy over here as he continues his studies. Maybe do something historical down the road for us, to do a video with us, and then we get the videos, and then we get bilinguals to translate them. We have a full-time videographer. Her name is Christy Graves. She lives in Knoxville, Tennessee, and travels all over the place for us. She's been up here to Lincoln a few times. Yeah, she was just up here not too long ago. I've heard some of you know Rachel Eunice, niece of Sam Gill. Just did our first video in Urdu, and it already has like almost 300 views, which is really cool because I only know about 8 people who speak Urdu. So that is not me sharing it. Somebody else is taking it and sharing it over there in Pakistan. So my heart beats for helping the post-Christian world believe in Jesus again. And when I talk about the post-Christian world, well, what is that? It's primarily Europe, but let's be honest, it's North America too, and anywhere where Christianity was once believed but has been rejected. I'm not going to get into this debate right now, but I would even say that much of the Islamic world is post-Christian too, because at many points, at earlier points in time, much of the Islamic world used to believe in Christianity, and you could argue that in many ways Islam comes after Christianity, is in some sense a post-Christian phenomenon. I was born in a little town in northwest Pennsylvania called Meadville. Maybe some of you have heard of Bob Russell, the preacher, retired preacher from Southeast Christian Church in Louisville. He's also from Meadville. I should say I'm from his hometown. And just a really cool little story. My father-in-law served as a Christian church preacher many years. Was 17 years in Brazil, Indiana, near Terre Haute. His name's Greg Comp. And that's where my wife and I, his daughter Heather, got married. If you've read some of Bob Russell's stuff, his father had served in the ministry, Gerald Comp, and Gerald had died in a drowning accident when my father-in-law was 14. And Bob writes about this in one of his books. Up in Connieville, Pennsylvania, which is right near Meadville, where the Russells had moved. And after my father-in-law's late father had passed away, his mother my wife's late grandmother had 3 kids to raise. Well, Roseanne Russell, Bob's sister, moved in with my wife's late grandmother and helped raise the kids. So we're really close to the Russells. Very thankful for the impact they had on my wife's family. I was born in the Lutheran Church. It was very nominal, cultural Christianity, somewhat conservative, but as a Lutheran, you came on Sunday, you sang your songs, you did your routine, and then you went your way. And I remember in the Lutheran Church, you're sprinkled as an infant, you get confirmed when you're about 12, 13, and after I got confirmed, I was out of there. I was in the world, and I was of the world, so about 13, 14, 15, 16, I was not a pleasant young man to be around. Grumpy, disgruntled. My parents had been divorced when I was little, and I didn't treat people well. All I cared about was sports and chasing girls. And it's funny because God has given me an amazing wife and 2 young girls. And if a guy like me came around my daughters when I was a young teenager, I would be chasing them away with a baseball bat. I would. My daughters, Fiona and Noelle. Our oldest daughter, Fiona, is a mechanic. She just graduated from high school, and she's working as an auto mechanic, which my wife and I are like, where'd that come from? Because my wife teaches German, and I'm a Bible nerd evangelist, and so we're like, I don't know where that came from. And then our younger daughter, Noelle, is into soccer and gets good grades. They both love Jesus. I got to baptize both of them. Very, very thankful for them. But in high school, it's crazy. I was a C student. And the only reason I got C's was so I could stay eligible for sports. I really did not care about school. I'm like, what do I need to be able to play football and run track? And okay, you needed C's, so that's what I got. Except in gym and choir. and maybe English a little bit. Was going to go to college to play football, had a really nasty ankle injury my senior year, ended up losing interest and followed. I had come to Christ my senior year, got baptized, First Christian Church, Meadville, Pennsylvania. A couple of youth ministers helped me, and followed one of my best friends, a guy named Jason Hills, to the late Cincinnati Bible College and Seminary in 1995. I had studied German in high school, but the only reason I stuck it out was because there was a German travel club trip after my senior year. Got to go to Germany, and I'm like, I want to see Europe. Well, something that really impressed me when I was over there, I was a new Christian who had been baptized like 8 or 10 months before that. These big, huge cathedrals with nobody in them. It was empty. I mean, it was the epitome of post-Christianity. There's beautiful cathedrals. Nobody's worshiping. Very, very few people. And that kind of stuck with me. Went to Cincinnati, and after my sophomore year, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. An opportunity arose where I could do an internship in Germany. And I was like, wow, I really should have paid attention in German class. Well, anyways, I got to go over there for 8 months, work with a church plant, a little town called Peine, about 50,000 people, and had a great time. Ended up learning how to speak German fluently. I still speak German with my daughters at home. My wife teaches it, so we're raising them bilingually. It's also for me, so I can stay in it, because we make a lot of these videos, and I'm speaking German regularly. I just finished my doctorate degree, and when we get in the full swing of things, I hope to be over in Europe several times a year doing apologetics seminars in German, English, and I'm still trying to nail French down. I haven't been able to work on it enough, but I'm not giving up yet, because I have a heart for France too. Do you know right now France, only about 0.9%, that's less than 1%, are Bible-believing Christians. The southern city of Marseille has 800,000 or 900,000 Muslims. Just that one city, Marseille. Half of the city follows Islam. There's work to be done over there. Came back after my internship, met my wife Heather, and we went to Germany. And she had to hesitate when I started pursuing her, because she's like, "You're going to Germany, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay." She ended up doing a great job. She had no idea that she was gifted linguistically. Picked up the language right away, and we came back so I could get my doctorate degree in apologetics. And she teaches German at a high school where we live in Mount Juliet, Tennessee now. She's one of the students' favorite teachers. We went back to the place where I did my internship in Peine. I worked with a church plant, and we also worked with a campus ministry in the university town of Göttingen. If you've not heard of Göttingen, it's where the Grimm's brothers were from. The Grimm's brothers fairy tales. So if you ever Little Red Riding Hood and Rumpelstiltskin and all that stuff, they gathered them up and put them together there. It's also a university that boasts 7 Nobel Prize winners, the most famous of which was Max Planck, the famous physicist. We can thank him for the lava lamp, I'm told. So did campus ministry there. I did my Hebrew studies at the University of Göttingen, and my Hebrew is not good. Don't ask me any questions. I know a couple words. Well, anyways, while I was there, I saw these students come in, and it was just the remnant of the Lutheran Church. A few of them believed, and literally by the time they were done with their first semester, they either didn't want anything to do with the church, or they were skeptics. Became very liberal in their theology. I remember one guy, Mo, we called him, played a little basketball with him. I helped him a lot because he wanted to hang on to his faith. And sometimes he would get up out of the Hebrew class and just go out in tears. This young man and I would meet up with him afterwards and try to help him and offer a different perspective, a higher view of Scripture than what the professor was giving us. And what we basically saw was, what little bit of faith that was there, it was being squelched. The German education system, they have religion classes in their public schools, and they're taught what we would call negative higher criticism of the Scriptures. It is just assumed. A posture of skepticism is assumed, and it's taught at the universities. It trickles down to the pulpits. It trickles down to the religious teachers, and the overwhelming majority of people in the state church, whether it be Lutheran or Catholic, maybe not all of them, but the overwhelming majority are skeptics. Most German pastors don't believe in the resurrection. They do not believe in the deity of Christ. They might, maybe Jesus was a good moral teacher or a good moral example, but it's not the view of Scripture or the view of Jesus that the New Testament gives us. And that's what I just finished writing my doctoral dissertation on. It's just got published this week with College Press, and it's called Sui Genre, which means like in a category all of his own or utterly unique. And I'm talking about Jesus and how 3 centuries of negative higher criticism has not been able to undermine the biblical order of Jesus. That's what I'm arguing in that. And I'm, Lord willing, hope to get it into some European languages through LATM's ministry. It's a branch of College Press. And hopefully can start to turn the tide in this world of skepticism. I want to give you guys just a couple images, and then I want to open it up for any questions that you might have. These are some analogies or some images that kind of help kind of capture what we're trying to do with this ministry. And I need to emphasize, I don't know where you're at in life, what you're doing, but I cannot overemphasize how poor of a student I was in high school. And God has a sense of humor. He took this C student who all he cared about was sports, and I went on to school, Bible college, fell in love with studying. God developed a passion in me to share the truth of His Word, defend it, and I ended up getting 2 master's degrees, and I just finished my doctorate degree. And if you would have told me that back in high school, I would have said, "What's a PhD?" You didn't know what that was. In fact, one real quick story. My mother, she told me this later on, because I don't think I could have handled it in high school. She could really hurt her. I was getting a bunch of letters for football and track from colleges, and my mother said she was in with our guidance counselor, academic counselor. His name was Mr. Mariani, and one of the letters was from Columbia University in New York City, which is an Ivy League school, right? And Ivy League, what's Ivy League? I didn't know what the Ivy League was back there, but and she told me later, Mr. Mariani said, "Ma'am, your son cannot go to Columbia University under any circumstances. I mean, look at his GPA." And so I think when I got my first master's degree, she wanted me to go back and show it to him, and I'm like, that's not why I did it, and I don't even care anymore. But and then I only got through it by the grace of God. But couple images. You know, church planning in Europe, and you guys, and I think that's what the Tuttles, they're working with a church plan, aren't they? It is hard. It is really, really hard. It is like trying to make bricks without straw, to use a biblical analogy. It is like trying to make bricks without straw. What KAPOL, what we're trying to do, we're trying to give straw to the post-Christian world. We're trying to make faith possible again. We're trying to network with Christians and get our resources out there, good arguments defending the faith, the Bible, and we've got all kinds of different topics on our YouTube channel. We're trying to get those in the hands of people who are maybe curious about Christianity or who are Christians and are sharing their faith, but they don't know how to engage they need some more resources. We really want to engage the culture and be involved in conversations that count, creating dialogues of difference that develop into relationships that redeem. Another analogy is, and I got this one from David Faust. He used to be president at the late Cincinnati Christian University. I think he's on staff at East 91st Street in Indianapolis, if I'm not mistaken. But David Faust, he put it this way. Imagine a sink stopped up with the water on and it's overflowing. Imagine this is going on at your house right now. You're getting nervous. sink is overflowing. Well, he said this way, some ministries grab a mop and they start mopping up the water, which it obviously has to happen. That water has to be cleaned up, otherwise your floor is going to be ruined. But he said, what you guys do in Europe, you're going up and trying to turn off the faucet. And I love that analogy. We're trying to turn off the faucet of skepticism. We're trying to help people see at the universities, in the churches, out in society, in politics, whatever, education. We want people to see that the Christian worldview stands up in the marketplace of ideas. It stands up in Athens. And are we saying that all Christians have to be academics? Absolutely not. I know some of you are blue-collar workers, but I'm sure you have some friends or some neighbors who don't believe or who aren't interested. Well, we want those friends of yours to know, hey, there's a lot going for the gospel. It's true, and there are good reasons to believe in it. And so we want everybody everywhere to know that the gospel and the word of God can be trusted. So we're trying to turn off the faucet of skepticism. I got any Lord of the Ring fans in here besides your preacher? Yes. So that was a treat going. Have you been in his office?
He's got a lot going on.
There's a lot going on in there. I haven't even. There's layers of like. I'm jealous. Like that. I mean, I haven't seen too many offices better than that. The only one I was talking about is Dr. Randall Price down at Liberty University. He's got about twice as many books, and it's like floor to ceiling all the way around. But he does not have as many gadgets as you. And he's got Lord of the Rings bookends and Minas Tirith. Is that the city? Yeah. I'm like that might be in my car.
I heard that.
I'm just kidding. I'm not going to show up and share and preach and then rob your preacher of his treasures. But the Lord of the Rings, if you saw the movie, or if you've seen the movie and you've watched the movie or read the books, you know Frodo has to. And by the way, our dog, our little Yorkie at home, his name is Frodo. We're committed. He's got to get that ring. Is it the Mount Doom?
Yep.
Yeah, into the lava to stop the evil, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. When I was writing my dissertation, and it's very cerebral and it's academic, I want that to be like a ring that gets dropped in the lava and just blows up negative higher criticism. And I tell people, and it's been really hard, but I tell people I really want it to have an impact like Luther's 95 Theses. To change the way people think about the faith, to change the way skeptics look at the Bible. Another one, any Star Wars fans? Okay, we got a couple. I'm not a like super Star Wars nerd or anything, so I don't, maybe I'm getting this wrong, correct me. There's the one where they gotta blow up the Death Star, right?
Yeah.
What is that Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back? Which one is it?
Yeah.
I think Empire Strikes Back. They've got to blow up this Death Star, but the problem is it's got this force field, right? So you can't like just shoot it on the outside. It's useless. How do you bring the Death Star down?
You have to drop a bomb down. Drop a hole in it.
You got to get down in it and hit it on the inside and blow it up from the inside. And you see that scene at the end where the Millennium Falcon's like racing to get out, and the other ships chasing it are like getting blown up by the fireballs coming out, and they just make it, of course, because that's how Han Solo and his crew, that's how they roll, or whatever. But you have to get inside there and blow it up. Well, that's what we want to do. We want to dismantle negative higher criticism of the Bible from the inside out, and really cause a paradigm shift about how skeptics and within the post-Christian world, how the Bible and the faith is viewed. Another one, anybody like chess? I haven't played in a long time. You guys like have a nerdy movie board game club going on back here. guys should start a society. Well, in chess, and I haven't played chess in a long, long time, but now this might get a little uncomfortable here. Which is the most important piece on the board? Is it the queen? Is it? Would you agree? Now, if the king gets captured, the game's over. So I'm not trying to start a fight here, but you know, you could argue, but let's be honest, the queen is the most important. If you're going to win the game, yeah, you can't. Right. If your king gets captured, it's over. But have you tried playing chess after your queen has been captured? It is very difficult unless you've captured your opponent's queen. It's almost impossible. And if you're like, can I sneak a pawn down to the you're trying to get that pawn down to the end so you can promote it to a queen and get the queen back. Because it's so hard to play chess without your queen. Well, a guy named Thomas Aquinas back in the 1200s, he called theology the queen of the disciplines. It's the most valuable discipline. It was the understanding of God's word, the understanding of God's revelation. We, in the post-Christian world, have lost our queen. And we're trying to play chess. We're trying to make disciples. We're trying to share the faith down our most valuable player, our most valuable discipline. Brothers and sisters, theology, this is crazy. Theology is taught at universities in theology departments by professors who do not believe. And you might think, well, how does that affect me? I'm not going over there and teaching. It does, though, because those professors affect other departments at the universities, and those universities affect the cities that they're in, and they affect the politics and the media, and our culture gets saturated with skepticism. And so I think of a guy, I talk about him a little bit in my book. His name was Gerd Ludemann. He just passed away a couple years ago. He was a huge skeptic at the University of Göttingen where we were at. I actually knew one of his grad assistants, a guy named Jordan Almanzar, conservative Catholic guy. We played some basketball together. He actually gave me Gerd Ludemann's copy of Eusebius in English because he didn't believe it. He was an early church historian. He didn't believe him, so he didn't care about it. And Jordan's like, "Do you want this?" And I was like, "Yes." So I have it on my that's when you know half.
That's true.
I'm just kidding. Well, Ludemann, he also taught at Göttingen. He also taught at Vanderbilt University, Nashville, Tennessee. You know, you think heart of Christian music, heart of gospel music. Well, it's like Satan put his skeptic champion professor right there in the heart of it, and he passed away a couple years, but he had a huge impact on that school while teaching there. You know what his theory was about Christianity and the resurrection? He believes that Paul made it up. He believed, well, Paul, now think about this. I'll just give you his argument in a summary. Paul was persecuting the church, Saul, who became Paul, the apostle, and had guilt feelings about it. And these guilty feelings caused him to have a vision of the resurrected Jesus. And then he was able to take that belief that he'd see Jesus and convince the other apostles that Jesus was resurrected. And that's how Christianity started it. So one of his main book is called Paul, the Founder of Christianity. That's the type of stuff we're dealing with. That's what we're up against. And so that's why we started this ministry. We couldn't even do youth ministry over in Germany without teaching apologetics to our kids, because they would have religion class in schools, and they would be taught God can't, if God exists, he can't do miracles. So these miracle stories of Jesus, they're just made up stories. So, why would you believe this? And that's what we dealt with on every Friday night in our little apartment in Pine. You guys have any comments, questions, anything I can? Yeah.
So, some of what you said about the negative criticism.
Yes.
There was a missionary that came to us Germany, in fact, I think he took a tour of a castle. And the castle was really awe-inspiring and all that.
Yeah.
But this castle was known for its library.
Okay.
And the tour guide said to him, because they kind of asked about the works in the library, and he said, well, the enemy took it, or those guys took it, with bad connotations, or I don't know what the right words were, but anyway, it turned out that went to the Vatican via the Catholic Church. So there was a lot of built-in negativism, at least in that community, towards the church because of things that happened a long time ago and what the Catholic Church did.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering, do you run into things like that?
So in Germany, in my experience, both the Roman Catholic Church, obviously we as Bible-believing Christians don't agree with everything. There are some things we agree with, like the Trinity or things like that. I had more trouble with the skeptical Lutheran Church because we were more in the north, and that tends to be more there, whereas the Roman Catholic Church was more popular in the south. And I ran into more Catholics who at least had some level of faith than I did those who were just members of the Lutheran Church, because people would be, yeah, I'm a member of the church, but I'm an atheist. You would hear that. And you would hear that from Roman Catholics say, yeah, my grandmother went to this church, so I was sprinkled as a baby and my name's still on the register. And I'm going to leave it though because I want to stop paying my church tax. That's kind of their tithe is like taxed from them. So it's very, most people, it's a thing of the past. In fact, I think it was probably a decade or two ago, the EU was trying to deny, if I'm not mistaken, there was a draft of sorts. They were trying to deny the Christian heritage of Europe. Think about it, and I'm sure the Tuttles might have pointed this out when they were here. If you think about it, it is an undeniable fact that Europe is the least Christian continent on the planet right now. There are fewer Christians, as you and I would understand them, Bible-believing Christians who have a relationship with God, who claim to be followers of Jesus, in Europe than any other continent on the planet. Now think about that though. 300 years ago, it was the exact opposite. And this is why, you might think, well, we're in North America, we're safe. No, we're buying all of the ideas from Europe on a regular basis. We have sent quite a few professors, future professors at Bible colleges, and this isn't just independent Christian churches and churches of Christ, over to Europe to get their doctorate degrees. They come back, we put them in professorships in our Bible colleges, and we wonder why our Bible colleges die. Now, that's not the only reason. It's not the only reason, but it definitely is one. I know at least half a dozen to a dozen people who went over to get their doctorate degree in Europe and come back, and if their faith is still intact, it is severely struggling. It is severely damaged. Now, I'm not saying we should necessarily avoid that. I think we need to engage it. I think we need to engage the skepticism with good answers, with good reasons to have a high view of Scripture, so that people can believe it. And so, yeah, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but the skepticism is everywhere. And yes, there's a little bit of, if you go back far enough, I guess, still bad blood between the Protestants and the Catholics. But the German Lutheran churches are closing their doors like almost weekly. They're turning into mosques, they're turning into cafes, they're turning into youth hostels and museums. And so you have these big cathedrals that are empty, and the church is in ruins in Europe.
I guess I was surprised. I didn't realize it was so systemic.
Yeah. I think Great Britain probably has the highest, I'll use the term evangelical population, Bible-believing Christian of any time. It's probably, 5, maybe 10%. Then Holland in Germany might be around 2 to 3%, but then you start to get the other countries, it's 1 or less, 1% or less. Islam is exploding. Tens of millions of Muslims in Europe. It's an opportunity. I think we got to go share the gospel, because technically Europe still has officially religious tolerance and freedom. You can share your faith. whereas you can't in some Muslim countries. I think we need to seize this opportunity, but Europe is rapidly changing, and it is affecting North America and the rest of the world. We're already talking about, missiologists talk about how the 2/3 world, like South America, Africa, Asia, the Christians in those parts of the world are going to be leaving the church here soon. Like, because the church is in such decline in the West. Well, we're already talking, I'm having conversations with some missiologists, like, well, what does that mean for apologetics and training leaders in Africa and in Asia? And so we've started, even though our focus is on post-Christian Europe, we're like, well, if we have an opportunity, let's get our videos into other languages too. So we have them in a few African languages. Urdu, Sinhala is the language of Sri Lanka. We've got one in Chinese, we've got a few in Japanese. We're trying to, get them out there for when these global shifts occur, that the Christians and the non-Christians have an opportunity to share the gospel and believe the gospel. Anything else? Yes?
Do you think that Christians are persecuted? Why is Islam exploding?
Well, I think the persecution plays a role. I think Christianity is just something cultural in Europe. And so people, if they do believe it, they don't want a conflict. And so, and Muslims, most Muslims are raised to believe, hey, this is like sort of every aspect of my life is religious. And whereas in the post-Christian Western mindset, we compartmentalize things more. And I'll even apply that to us Christians. This is my Jesus box. This is my work box. And I keep them separated. I saw another hand. Yeah.
Personally, Brett, for you and those that you work with, when you say go to Germany, how do you do your apologetics? Is it more one-on-one, so you're more gentle?
So
Do you debate with groups? How answer questions? How do you do this?
So I'll tell you what, I'm still learning. At 47, I'm still trying to figure this out. I think there's been times where I have been too gentle, and there's been times where I haven't been gentle enough. And so I'm trying to find that happy medium. Obviously, I think it's pretty universal to say winning trust with people, building relationships is always an advantage. But if the opportunity presents itself, I will engage someone. I try never to attack the person, though. I try to, if there's a disagreement about the faith, I focus on the issue or the claim, and I try not to. And if it does come to the person, I'll try to ask questions like, why do you believe that? What reasons do you have for believing that? And not be like, how can you be so? No, because and a lot of times though, they are doing that to me though. How can you be so naive? The Bible's a book of fairy tales. Are you? I don't know how many times I heard my German friends say, the whole world believes in Darwinism, Brett. It's only you few crazy Americans. And I'm like, actually, that's not true. And then I point them to a couple of European scientists who are skeptical of Darwinism, and then introduce them to their works. Any other thoughts, questions? You said about Court Hill?
Yep.
Got about 4 minutes. Yeah.
Getting back to a moment ago, are Muslims exploding in Europe because the European people are converting and becoming Muslim, or just because all the Muslims are migrating from the Middle East to Europe?
I think it's both, but it's primarily the second one. They have a lot more children than the Europeans do, the average Europeans. But there are some Europeans converting. But you hear stories of some Muslims coming to Christ. It's few and far between. So there are some good things happening. There are a few churches that are growing. It's small pockets. It's hard to have a big cultural revival that we'd love to see. But yeah, it's a great question. And honestly, we Christians, I think, and this applies to me, we're too comfortable. It has been easy for us to be Christians for so long We maybe have a little bit of light persecution we get made fun of, but I think there's a window closing quickly in Europe where it's not, I don't know when it will be, but it's going to be very difficult down the road to share our faith as Islam grows, because it's just too much conflict. Great question. Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and I'm excited to share in the worship time. I'm going to be talking about our minds as evidence for God's minds. Our minds, He has one. Our minds,